Okay, we are.
Okay, great. It is 7:01. Thanks everyone for coming out today for our regular meeting for the Township of Bedminster Township Committee, April 15, 2019. Ms. Sullivan, may we have the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Yes.
Before you do, there's only 4 of us. Committeeman Hickey is excused, so we have a quorum.
He's absent. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News in Somerville and to the Burnsville News in Whippany. Also to all subscribers, and then posted here at the Municipal Building as of January 7th, 2019.
Great, thank you. Please join me standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have 2 sets of minutes to approve tonight. That's the April 1, 2019 regular committee meeting and the closed session executive session meeting.
There was a minor typo that has been corrected for Committeewoman Hickey, Committeewoman Santucci, sorry. Committeewoman Stevenson. In the closed session minutes, I had a misspelled word, but they have been corrected.
Okay, any other comments for Ms. Sullivan on the minutes?
No.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a number of permits and raffles tonight. First one is social fair permit for the American Cancer Society, event held at Hamilton Farm Golf Club on May 18, 2019 from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. Next is social fair permit for the Special Olympics New Jersey, event held at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club on June 24, 2019 from 10:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Next, raffle license application for Embrace Kids Foundation, event held at Hamilton Farm Golf Club on June 14, 2019 from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. casino night. Next, raffle license application for the Cancer Support Community of Central New Jersey, event held at 3 Crossroads Drive, Bedminster on June 8, 2019 from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's an on-premise 50/50. Raffle license application for Rise Up Chorus Inc., event held at the Willow School on June 2nd, 2019 from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on-premise 50/50. Social affair permit for Somerset Healthcare Foundation, event held at Trump National Golf on May 21, 2019 from 10:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. And the last is the raffle license application for the Center for Contemporary Art, event held at the Center for Contemporary Art on June 8, 2019 and June 9, 2019 from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's an on-premise merchandise. Are there any comments or questions regarding the permits and raffles?
No, Mayor.
We have a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Again, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. Twice each night we open the microphone up for public comment. If anyone from the public has any comments or questions they'd like to pose, now's your opportunity. There will be a second opportunity later in the meeting. No one's making a move. Okay, let's go to monthly report discussion by subcommittee chair, and we will start with Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. As far as the DPW, we completed the hillside paving. Mayor, I hope that's working out for you up there. I guess the striping striping's been completed, yes. So we're good there. We've also completed the hiring of foreman, Tom Skillman. Welcome, Tom. He's going to be a great addition. So we're excited for that.
Do we have a start date on that?
It's supposed to be 6th or 7th.
Okay.
So it's Tuesday the 7th.
Okay. Looking forward to having him come along. I think he'll be a good fit for us. On the fire rescue, I attended on Saturday the Fireman's Ball. It was a great event. It was very impressive, and it just again proves the strength of our townships and our volunteers and all of the service. And they're going out for the Years of Service Awards. It was just a great event. very dedicated group of folks, and congratulations to them. Keep up the good work. And I'm still continuing to move forward with you, Mayor, on the PBA contract. We'll talk about that in exec. I don't want to get into it here in open, but working on that, and still working on the HR consultant, which we'll talk about in exec as well. So still have a couple of irons in the fire in terms of personnel and contracts. So we're hoping to iron that stuff out so we can get on to things like farmers market. Great. That's it.
Hello, Mayor.
Presentation.
Thank you. Colin, who is not here this evening, and I are liaisons to the Community Development Block Grant Program. And that is funding that was created through Congress through the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974. So there are funds that help our community. So on April 10th, we attended the meeting where they set the committees, and everybody chooses whether you're going to look at the public facilities grants or you're going to look at the public services. Colin and I switched because last year I did the public services, so now we will review all these applications, and May 8th are the presentations, and we'll go to that. So after that is done, I'll be able to give you a report on where the grant funding went.
Okay,
When
great.
is that, May 8th?
May 8th. April 10th was the initial meeting when we all go and kind of choose a chairperson that's held down in Somerville, and May 8th it is also held down in Somerville. It's very interesting, and we'll make our way through the applications. And as Doug said, we're going to talk about the HR consultant in closed, and we'll go from there. And that is my update.
Okay. Committeewoman Mareski.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start with Environmental Commission. The Millhouse property, where we're looking at some river damage, the New Jersey Water Supply will actually be putting up a couple of cameras to see what is actually causing the damage, whether it's horses or deer or ATVs. Put it up in a couple of weeks. I believe one of the local neighbors is going to help figure out where the best place to put the cameras are. The DP has a free tree seedling program that the Environmental Commission is excited to take advantage of and to get the town people involved in. So they're thinking about doing a raffle or something to have somebody in town win 5 free tree seedlings and plant them in their yard. Let's see, EV charging. We're waiting on the vendor to determine the schedule. However, the preliminary design and the equipment list should be ready by the end of this week. One thing that the committee did discuss, which met with some good and bad results from other members of the committee, was trying to introduce a new ordinance for new construction, both residential and commercial, to actually have conduits for EV charging capabilities mandatory when there's new construction. So there was a discussion about that, and we'll see where that goes. Let's see, John Coates did a really nice presentation on open space, talking about what the parameters are that Bedminster should really be using to determine what's important open spaces to take, not just lean on the other committees that like to tell us what they think is important. June 1st is not only Farmers Market opening day, but it's our well testing. So Michelle, Linda, and George from the committee will be putting out signs. I think they were going to reach out to Judy to see, and John to see maybe where the best places in town for the sandwich boards are. I don't know if they've reached out to you yet or not.
Yeah, they've already worked that out.
Excellent,
Is
excellent.
that the Jacobus Vanderveer House picnic too, June 1st?
That's the summer soiree.
Yes.
That will be the same night. It's a busy day.
Like, wait a second.
And they were thinking about perhaps putting some information at the township table at Farmers Market, if that's okay, even though it's kind of late. But if somebody comes at 10 o'clock to the market, the well testing is from 9 to 12 to buy the kits. So,
Will the kids,
or they can have
the
the kits
kits will
at
be
the table.
available for sale
Yep, June 1st from 9 to 12.
Saturday
Sorry.
here?
Here.
Yep.
Okay, so kids, so someone could pick up the kit.
Here.
Okay.
The building will be open, we'll have staff available.
All right, and what's the price of the kit?
Was it
It
$60?
depends, the basic kit I think is 60, and then there's all kinds of other things you can get tested.
So
Wait,
so 60 is the,
It's basic.
is
Basic
the,
kit.
The basic.
the jar plus the base analysis.
There are many other, from
Okay.
$25 to $55, there's other things you can add in if you want.
Okay.
Okay, so Moth Night, they've tentatively set that up for June 28th at 8:30. That night, they're still working on a date, but hopefully in August. Let's see. Graciela is kind enough to be looking into grant opportunities. She's going to give it a shot to fill out grant proposals. It's very kind of her. And she also gave a farmer's market update at the EC meeting. And last but not least, I was not there, but you were there, the RHA stream cleanup. So
Yes.
do you have a second? Would you like to tell us how it went? Because she
Sure.
says it went swimmingly.
Well,
Uh-huh.
there wasn't much swimming, at least in the section that I was at. So Saturday was National River Cleanup or National Stream Cleanup Day, and in this area, organized by RHA. And for the River Road, the Township Committee was well represented with Committeeman Hickey, and I were cleaning up, met at River Road, then dispatched off to Burnt Mills, up on Milner, and proceeded to spend a few hours up there through the muck, no swimming.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Tim Walter was very productive. So I think our little threesome from the Township Committee at that place was Tim from EC, Colin, and me. We actually had a couple folks from Basking Ridge join us out there as well. And there was another group of some families who patrolled River Road Park and then up by the river itself as well. And just driving around our area on Saturday and Saturday afternoon and even Sunday, throughout this entire area, even going down towards Flemington, you saw those orange bags and the clear recycling bags
Wow.
all over the place. So RHA did a great job in organizing folks to get out there, keeping our rivers clean. There was some documentation of as what was being collected,
That
certainly
becomes
from
part of our Clean Communities
Yeah.
report that we give to the state.
a lot of water bottles, a lot of old beer cans. That was pretty much the majority of what we were picking up. There was, off by Burnt Mills Road, car parts, side view mirror here and there, parts of the bumper here and there. I guess that's to be expected, unfortunately. But great event, and once again, kudos to RHA for its organization. While we're on subcommittee chair, just a quick report from ongoings with Bedminster Hills Housing Corporation. So BHHC is going to have an information session here in these chambers. Is that going to be the 24th?
The 24th.
The 24th. So Sharon DeSico from BHHC and the attorney for BHHC, Edgemere, will be here to do a presentation on the recapture fee. This is the recapture fee. So for the units that have come off affordable restrictions, they still have one more recapture fee. That's for their first market sale. So the first sale of a unit at market rate or off restrictions, there's still a recapture fee that is owed back to BHHC for the funds to be deposited and redeployed back into affordable housing projects. So Edgemere is going to give a little presentation with Sharon about how that gets calculated, the process is, what goes into the recapture fee. It's not just a 20% of the gross sale, it's net of profit, with accounting for certain improvements that the homeowners may have made to those units.
So the basis would be the amount, including this. That's
Right,
the
so
start,
that-
the basis,
right.
the starting point.
So the basis would, and actually Renee, who has gone through this, can attest. So it's what the unit was purchased for, what the unit transacts for, because the recapture fee is not just at the end of the restriction period, it's actually at any transaction during the restriction period as well. So during the restriction period, there's only allowed a moderate increase in the value of the house. So it's prescribed actually through a calculation that BHHC monitors based on the years that someone's in there and what the base price is. But once the restriction period is over, the unit is available for whatever it sold for. However, the recapture fee provision still applies for that first sale. So, Renee, I'm not sure if if you recall the details when
I sold?
you're right.
It was what I bought it for plus I think 10% was what I could ask for.
What you ask for?
Yeah, and then there was a small fee that went to the HHC.
Right.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So you made nothing, but that's fine because you want to keep it during that restriction for the next person to buy.
Right.
And keep it in, low income. So.
Right. So it'll be an information session here, once again, April 24th. That's from
That's at
BHHC.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock
And the
here.
notices to all involved property owners went out today.
Okay. Farmers Market. You mentioned Farmers Market. And you mentioned Farmers Market.
did.
Okay, so Farmers Market. Farmers Market. We'll start June 1. We have a very active season planned, coordinating with a number of Farmers Market Committee members who are searching out for different promotional events. It could be music. There'll be 1 or 2 days that'll be devoted bringing some artisans, local artisans, to participate as well. We have these 2 guys lined up for a couple times during the year, and perhaps another local musician. Tim Walter is going to reach out to that person as well. And for opening day, we'll also have the Far Hills Bedminster Fire Company there. So they'll be there. Send an email out to the chief, I guess it was a week and a half ago, and he responded immediately, saying they really like the opportunity. The way I look at it, it's an opportunity to promote. For one day it could be Far Hills, another day it could be Pottersville. See if we can't do a little bit of fundraising and also maybe get some volunteers for those fire companies. So we've got a full plate coming in, some new vendors. I think we've mentioned that before. I think we're going to start nailing that down within the next week. And we'll be going from there. Land Use Board, there's no Land Use Board meetings in April, and I don't think we have an agenda yet for May, but we do have some news floating around through engineering and through elsewhere and historic preservation that there are some applications coming down the road. So there'll be some activity from the Land Use Board on that end. And then the next is the Library Board meeting, which is this week. And that's what we have for monthly report discussions by subcommittees, which bring us to the administrator's report, which I think we've got a special presentation tonight.
Do, however, let me just touch on a couple things first. In your package under correspondence, you'll see letters there from Senator Doherty congratulating us on receiving municipal aid grant in the amount of $250,000, which will be for a section of River Road West resurfacing. Last year, we also received $205,000 in a similar grant. That project out there's Phase 1, which is the westernmost part, River Road, from Rattlesnake Ridge Road to the Tewksbury line, the bridge. And then Phase 2 was Rattlesnake Ridge Road back to Cotterswood. So the first Phase 1, we got $205,000. For Phase 2, this year we got $250,000. So the plan is to provide later this evening capital ordinance to provide some funding for the engineering portion of that project, and then we would hopefully have everything ready to award that bid for early spring next year. So there'll be more about that. Also a congratulatory letter from the Highlands Council that our third round housing element and fair share plan was presented to them for their review by Mr. Banish, our planner. They have reviewed it and approved it to go on the official website, and also authorized Bedminster to go ahead. We have some grant funding to pay for Mr. Banish's services to put that all together. So they've given approval that can be, part of the grant can be released. So that's in your correspondence. We also, if you remember during our budget sessions, Pottersville Fire Department was talking about a brush truck that they hope to get, and they weren't asking any township participation in the purchase of that brush truck. They were relying on some private donations, some fundraising that they did on their own, and then they also hoped, they had applied for a grant that they hoped would also offset that cost. And they sent me a copy of a letter today that they did receive a grant in the amount of $3,300 that will go towards the purchase of that brush truck. So no municipal funding for the brush truck. It's all done through grants and donations and fundraising. So they're pretty proud of that project. The Phil Sear from DOT, who was instrumental with us in putting together the riparian buffer program down along the hike and bike trail with all the trees we planted. If you remember, DOT had a big project. They had a number of trees that they took out for the ramp going on from 287 north to 78 east. Those trees had to be replaced somewhere in the area. At the same time as when we had a riparian buffer, we had to do along our hike and bike trail from River Road Park down to Burnt Mills Park. So we suggested that they donate their required trees to our project. It was a beautiful partnership. And so Phil Sear reached out to me today and wanted to just commemorate that the project was all done and the trees were doing well. And to finalize the project, he asked that I provide just a letter of support, finalizing the whole project, that it all went well and the trees are doing well and we're very happy with how everything went. He just needed that to close up his report. So I told him I'd be happy to send that out. I was going to report to you tonight what his request was, so, with your approval.
On the trees, where there's the deer fencing around those trees along the hike and bike extension,
Right.
is that intended to be permanent?
I have no idea.
I don't know. That's a
Who's,
question for Paul Ferrero, who manages.
Oh, that's Paul's?
No,
Yeah.
it's the state.
Oh, that's the state.
State.
But as far as the requirements, he would know better than I whether that comes down or not. Actually, when I send the email to Phil with this information, I'll ask.
Okay.
Because I don't know when that comes down. So anyway, that was from Phil.
You know the two sections I'm talking about, right? Okay.
Yes. And just a reminder that Thursday, we have a meeting here to discuss potential shared court with Berners Township. So I think, Mary, you were going to come to that?
Yes.
Most of the staff will be Judge House and members from the staff, but for you to sit in as well. So.
Right, and for the record, this is not with Berners Township.
No.
Or with any other of the municipal participants in the shared court. This is just us meeting internally to see
Just to
if
review
there's
what
cost
the needs
savings.
are and what we feel some of the requirements might be going forward when we're having our negotiation discussions with Berners Township.
Right.
So, just a reminder for that. That being said, you want a short presentation on the budget?
Well, we know the budget, but perhaps our two public,
They came for the show.
they came for the show. We got a screen, we got some lights that we can dim.
We can do the light.
We did not have any popcorn this
Bill
evening.
popcorn. So there's some information in your books with some of the slides that I'm showing. Chief, you could move to the slide a little bit. Thank you. I have to sit here because I have to push the button. Someone stole my laser pointer.
Stall,
I don't know where it is. I can't find it.
chief, we have a detective bureau.
I don't know. So, 2019 budget, we completed it within 5 meetings. A lot of hard work and cooperation from all the department heads in the finance department, administrator, and the township committee. This year's budget is $11,361,393. And that is actually an increase of 0.7% over 2018 in the amount to be raised through taxation to the taxpayers. The proposed appropriations for 2019 have actually been cut, a little over $35,000, and from 2018 was minus 0.31%. Revenue has also decreased this year by about 1.24%, a little over $47,000. Our revenue went down. Therefore, even though the appropriations decreased, Since the revenues also decreased and residential assessments actually increased, the amount to be raised through taxation therefore also increases by about $52,599, or 0.7%. At the bottom here, you'll see just you can see the comparisons of the municipal budget from 2015 through 2019. You can see the increases at the bottom, the difference, and the amount to be raised through taxation, as I said, $52,599. Last year's increase was $6. We kept it 0% last year. Where does the budget funding come from? It actually comes from three things, two of which are revenues and surplus. So while focus is often on the amount to be raised by taxation, other funding sources are also a vital part of the budget process that include the use of surplus, state aid, grants, construction fees, and other miscellaneous revenue. And this year, a new revenue was the sale of the municipal property on Hillside Avenue, which, as a side note, the final closing on that property, that sale is tomorrow. So there's some documents the mayor has to sign this evening, and the township attorney will take that with her this evening. Then you can see where the revenue and the surplus stacks up, with the surplus being about 14% of the entire budget. The revenue is about 19% of the budget, which remains about 67% of the budget then has to be raised through taxation. The total property tax burden for 2019 is estimated to be, this includes the school and the county and the municipality and the library and open space, about $33,818,197. The school and the county part of the budget are currently still being estimated. We're not sure of their total amounts yet, but we're estimating them at approximately 2%. The portion of the budget funded through property taxes is reviewed annually in Bedminster and throughout Somerset County by the on-site reassessment of all properties every 4 years. The total value of all property in Bedminster in 2019, as you can see down the bottom here, is, let me make sure I read the number right, $2,448,776,778. That's actually a decrease of 0.14%, with residential homes and utilities having a slight increase, and vacant land, farm properties, and our commercial properties, unfortunately, decreased in value, an overall 1.53%. So unfortunately, this change places a bigger tax burden on the residential property owners because their properties did go up in value. Capital Improvement Fund. The big challenge in our budget process is often the capital budget. Now, the capital budget is considered outside of the 2% cap, but it's still paid for by the taxpayers. So our township committee has never considered it to be outside that 2% cap. They always include those numbers in our 2% cap. So the budget purchases here can only be for items that have a life of at least 5 years or more. And the majority of the budget work sessions are actually spent discussing the capital budget. So you can see for this year we have a number of costs, and then a lot of those costs are offset by grants, which I just mentioned to you, a lot of the grants that we're getting from the state for our road projects or other funding that we may have in place from previous years. And you can see the last column is the actual taxpayer balance. So you see this year for public works, for our roads and vehicle replacement in the Public Works Department, over $721,000, but only about $350 of that will be actually part of the capital budget. Over $371,000 of that is available through grants and other funding that we have in the budget from previous years. Building upgrades, $35,000. We have about almost $4,300 left over from last year, so we only have to fund about $30. Building upgrades and equipment replacement for the fire and first aid squad, a little over $82,000. Again, we have money left over from previous year that was not used, so we only have to fund about $30,000. Police equipment is about $37,000 this year. We have a technology upgrade for potentially a small copier for $5,000. And then we have improvements for our hike and bike path with some new paving, and we hope to do some park improvements down in the Pluckman Schoolhouse Park, which is all around the Center for Contemporary Art. And we estimate both of those projects to be about $175,000. But fortunately, that money isn't even an impact on the taxpayers at all, because we're going to be using the Open Space Trust account to pay for that full project. So, so we have over $1 million in projects that we have to do this year, but we're only paying about $453,000 for those projects. Another big part of our budget is shared services. Bedminster is a leader in shared services. We're a firm believer in the benefits of shared services, and we're a participant in quite a few with neighboring towns. We share a tax and sewer collector with Far Hills. We share a public works department with Far Hills. We have a shared municipal court with Bernardsville and Peapack Gladstone. We are potentially looking at expanding that even further with Berners Township later this year. We have a senior van that we share with Peapack Gladstone, and we also do lawn service and snow removal to the Clarence Dillon Public Library. Bedminster is also the recipient of shared services from Peapack Gladstone for some of our sewer utility management here at the pumping station and over our collection system behind the library. However, that portion of our shared service, we may modify that this year with some new staff that we have on board that will be actually to flip that around, and we'll be the ones providing shared service to both Peapack and Far Hills. So that's yet to be realized, but we hope to have that completed before the end of the year as well. Shared services provide a big savings in the municipal budget, and along with keeping other costs under control, such as debt service and the capital budget. So you can see our debt service is down this year, over 4.3%. Our capital projects are also down about almost $100,000 over last year. The shared municipal court has saved us a bunch of money, I have to say. We've had it in place in 2014 with Peapack Gladstone, and then in 2016, Bernardsville came on board, and throughout that time, there's been savings. Bedminster, Peapack Gladstone, and Bernardsville, about over $240,000 that we've saved by combining all the employees and services. And with the new shared service that's proposed with Peapack Gladstone for the management of our sewer transmission system, we potentially hope to save more than $75,000 this year as well. And that's between the three towns, not just Bedminster. So that would be for Far Hills, Peapack, and Bedminster. Property values and our tax levy. Portion of the municipal budget funded by property taxes is divided up between all property owners and based on the value of the property. So if you take the amount to be raised by taxes, which ends up being $7,548,540, and divide that by the total assessed value for all the property in Bedminster, which is that $2,448,000,000 number, and then you take that number and multiply it by 100, you get the municipal tax rate, which this year which includes the local tax rate and the library tax. So down the bottom, setting the tax rate ends up to be 0.308, so 30.8 cents for the local tax and library. Also add to that our open space tax, which is 0.015. The total municipal taxes, 0.273 for the municipality, 0.015 for the open space, 0.035 for the library. Our total tax rate, 0.323. Now, that doesn't include the county tax, it doesn't include the school tax. That's just the municipal rate. But that's how we get it. There's some comparisons of tax rates from 2014 until now. You'll see 2019 has an asterisk next to it because, again, as I said, the school tax is an estimated number. I don't have the final numbers from the school, and the county taxes are also estimated. I don't have the final numbers from the county. So those are estimated at a 2% increase over last year. Our open space tax is the same. Our library tax is based on a calculation of assessed values for the town of both Far Hills and Bedminster together, so that usually changes slightly. You can see it's usually between 30.034 and 0.035. And then our local taxes have only changed very slightly this year. So the overall tax rate this year, 1.381. And again, that may change slightly depending on the actual outcome for the school tax and the county tax. Well, what can we expect to see in our tax bill when they will be coming out probably later in June and July, the end of July or beginning of July. The average residential assessed value here in Bedminster is a little over about $458,500. Okay. Our local tax rate, as previous slide, 0.323 cents. So if you take the local tax rate, that's per $100 of value. Okay. So you take the $458,000 house and divide that by 100, and a local tax bill, an average tax bill for a local homeowner, an average homeowner in Bedminster, for the municipal portion, again, not the county, not the school, is about $1,481. Okay. Again, keep in mind that residential property values did increase about 1.39% in 2019 over 2018. So even if the tax rate was exactly the same and didn't change at all, taxes would go up slightly because your assessed values increased. So that's pretty much all I have. If there's any questions on anything I presented.
This will be online, Judy?
So what we'll do tomorrow is we'll post this presentation online. On the back page of the agenda this evening, there is a summary of the budget numbers. That will be posted in the newspaper later this week, in the Thursday edition.
That's great, thank you.
Okay.
So all those meetings reduced to just a few minutes, Judy.
I know.
Well done.
5 meetings.
And that comes with admission to the farmer's market.
Free
admission.
Free admission to the farmer's market. That's
for the
right.
1,400.
So, a couple takeaways, just as Judy mentioned, the work that staff from the township puts into this at every meeting we had. The meetings that went past midnight, the one that went to about 12:30, and the other long one that went to about 11:30, 11:45. At those meetings, Judy Sullivan, John Mance, and Chief Rock, who were with us the entire time, looking at the numbers, looking at the budget, looking at the operating budget, looking at the capital budget, looking at expenditures, looking for opportunities for savings, revenue, grants. Rec Director Robin Ray, who was with us for, I think, most of the meetings as well. Thank you. Thank you guys for the work that you put into it. It's certainly hard enough making the decisions about the budget, what goes in and what comes out, what gets deferred. But I think every year that since I've been on committee, we've been looking at this on an itemized basis, and it's a slog, right? There's no doubt that it's an effort to run through, and I think every time we do it, we reground ourselves in the services that we're providing, looking for efficiencies, and I think with a lot of the committee members up here with business experience and really a varied business experience, we can actually ask the questions and make recommendations and comments and work with you guys and listen to you all as to where we can affect the savings for the residents. Also, certainly with talking to Ed Kerwin, finding out where the value is in the Bedminster real estate, what the prospects are for changes in valuation and rateable, and also being mindful to what's coming through, whether it's historic preservation or the land use board, for development that may be coming down the line that may also be impacting net value of ratables in Bedminster. So once again, thank you guys for your hard work, and thank you to all the committee members for suffering through those meetings as well. I think this is, I think this is a budget that we all should be proud of. Expenditures are down, and I go back to one of the things I said at the reorg, right? Which is, we can't expect a lot of assistance in taxes, either from Trenton or from Washington. And I think the onus remains on us to do what we can to help our residents. And that budget that you see there is a reflection of that. So once again, thank you all. Moving on, discussion on introduced ordinances scheduled for public hearing. There are none, but we do have a number of ordinances that we are introducing tonight.
If I can make a short comment, these ordinances, the question was, can we introduce these ordinances because we don't have a budget?
Right.
Checking with the auditor, because we're only introducing these ordinances, they will not be adopted until after, at our next meeting, after we hopefully adopt our budget at that meeting. If we adopt the budget at our next meeting, then we will then continue with these ordinances. If it's deferred, then we will defer the ordinances as well.
So the process is that these are ordinances that rely on a budget being in place. We can't make any adjustments until the budget is established. Budget comes first, then these ordinances will have a
But we
public
can only
hearing.
start the ball rolling.
Right. So ordinance number 2019-003, ordinance authorized the first phase funding of a 2019 capital project, the engineering design for the improvements to River Road West, which the township has received a DOT fiscal year 2018 municipal aid program grant for $205,000, and a DOT fiscal year 2019 municipal aid program grant for $250,000. Public hearing for this ordinance is scheduled for May 6, 2019 at 7 p.m. Municipal Building, 1 Miller Lane, Bedminster, New Jersey. Judy, should we do this individually? Each ordinance?
If you want to read them all, we could introduce them all together.
Okay, let's do that. Ordinance 2019-004, the ordinance authorizes the purchase of motor vehicles and heavy equipment for the Public Works Department as part of the regular vehicle replacement program at a total amount not to exceed $75,000. Public hearing for this ordinance is scheduled for May 6, 2019 at 7 p.m. Municipal Building, 1 Miller Lane, Bedminster. Ordinance number 2019-005, the ordinance authorizes appropriating $351,500 for the Capital Road Management Plan in Bedminster Township. The public hearing for this ordinance is scheduled for May 6, 2019 at 7 p.m. Municipal Building, 1 Miller Lane, Bedminster. Ordinance number 2019-006. This ordinance authorizes appropriating $10,000 for the 2019 capital plan for the shared municipal court in Bedminster Township. The public hearing for this ordinance is scheduled for May 6, 2019 at 7 p.m. Municipal Building, 1 Miller Lane, Bedminster. Ordinance number 2019-007. This ordinance authorizes appropriating $25,000 for the 2019 capital plan for facilities in Bedminster Township. The public hearing for this ordinance is scheduled for May 6, 2019 at 7 p.m. Municipal Building, 1 Miller Lane, Bedminster. Any questions about the introduction of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ordinances?
No.
No, Mayor?
You good with us doing this? Should we introduce them one by one?
Yes.
And vote on them one by one? Okay, there you go.
Or you already discuss each one, you can vote on them all.
Okay.
We can do.
We can just do one.
Okay, so do we have a motion to introduce those ordinances?
I'll move all 5.
I'll second that motion.
Excellent.
Okay, we just need an all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No? Okay, so the public hearing for all of them will be on May 6th.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lizette. Public hearing of ordinances, we do have one, which is ordinance 2019-02, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriations limits and to establish a cap bank. This ordinance provides that a municipality may, when authorized appropriate the difference between the amount of its actual final appropriations and a 3.5% percentage as an exception to its final appropriations in either of the next 2 succeeding years. That's a mouthful, Judy, but I know there's a much more simple explanation.
So the budget this evening that we talked about, that we introduced at the last meeting, was 0.7%. We're allowed to go to 2%. We didn't do that. So that what we saved gets put into a bank. It has no monetary value, it's just a number. And we have that percentage is set aside in a bank, and we're allowed to keep that for two more years in case we need it. So we can add, you're actually having 3 years worth of capped savings that you may have used. And you could save it if you had a year where you had a major emergency or issue or funding problem, and you needed to come up with, to exceed the 2% cap that you're bound to by the state. So this would be an exception that you could use in any emergency.
Just for my own edification, why does it say 3.5?
There are other exceptions with the capital, with health coverage, with pension coverage, that all are exceptions as well, that could put you up to that 3.5%.
So
We currently don't take any of that within the cap, or, we don't exclude it, but if you needed to, you could.
for all intents and purposes, we're banking 2.8?
Yes,
Well, you could bank 2.8.
with certain emergencies, yes.
Now, at what point would we call on the bank itself to actually fund above and
When we're
beyond?
going to introduce our budget, okay, if we had funding measures or problems that we just couldn't meet, I don't know, the roof fell in or something on a building, or I don't know, any kind of major road problems where John Mance needed additional equipment or something, you could then use it. But normally it would be when you're introducing, but you could declare an emergency and then take some of that funding, and then in the succeeding year, you put that additional funding that you needed in next year's budget, and you would again need that cap bank to exceed the 2%.
So it's not just that if something were to happen between now and when we introduce the budget, right? That there was an emergency that happened that required additional funding, but this could essentially be triggered at any time during the year, and you would just essentially raise those
Correct.
funds in the next ensuing tax
You
year.
would authorize that debt, if you want to
Right.
call it, and then you raise it in the succeeding year. I mean, not fun, but you would have the ability to do that if you had an emergency.
Right.
This is something we do every year, right?
Not every town does it. It's recommended that you should do it, just, it's an insurance policy, okay? And it's recommended that every town should adopt a cost of living adjustment ordinance.
And the reason that you're able to have the bank in the first place is because you're not hitting your 2%
Right.
every year. So if we were not a spendthrift as we are, your opportunity to establish a bank is decreased.
A lot of towns don't do it because they don't have it.
Right, they don't do it.
They don't have it.
So with that, an ordinance, so we have to go to,
We have to open
we have
the
to-
public hearing.
so do we have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing on this one.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next
We have
is,
had the discussion already.
right, we've had the discussion. So now, for public comment,
Right.
members of the public, do you have any questions or comments regarding this ordinance? Sounds like a good idea.
I agree.
Do we have a motion to close the public
I would
hearing?
make that motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Again, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve ordinance 2019-002?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to the consent agenda. We do not have a consent agenda, but we do have a few actually just one resolution on tonight. There's more.
Okay, we'll have to talk to the chief.
This is Resolution 2019-045. The resolution approves and grants a public towing license to Tom DeLuca's Towing, Inc., Somerset Hills Towing, and Mike's Towing and Recovery, Inc. Licenses are for a period of 3 years. Chief,
Sir,
can you tell us what this resolution?
as you may or may not know, the township does have a ordinance requiring tow providers under the police department when there's a motor vehicle crash. It's on a rotating basis. They need to file an application. There's a background, check certifications, make sure they have the right equipment, insurance, storage, and a whole bunch of different pieces to it. And then, it's put together and they're approved by, obviously, myself, and then through the resolution by the Township Committee. So currently, with these three, who have been towing for us for at least 5 years, we also have another tow company that will come up next year for renewal. So.
Chief, what are the roads that the public towing companies that they have within their franchise area? Is that just the Bedminster roads? Should they also cover the county roads and the state roads?
We'll cover any road if it's a Bedminster police towing call. I mean, the same company as utilized by the state police on the interstates, and most every town, it's usually the same towing company.
Okay, so we have 4 totals of the 3 that are coming up on this license, and then the other license that comes up next year?
That's an off year, yes.
Okay.
And they rotate, right?
So if we'd 4 services in one day, you'll see 4 different records. That's how it rotates.
Okay.
So it's not by week, it's not by month. It's the calls rotate.
Performance over the years has been good for everybody?
No, it's worked out well. And obviously, if you can't provide the service, they let us know, and then you just go to the next person. But that's all handled through Mercer County Dispatch, so it's kind of seamless.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief?
No, thank you.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next is approval of the bill list. So pending review of individual invoices, may we have a motion to approve the bill list?
I will make that motion, Mayor.
Second.
And another roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Discussion items. Any items that Township Committee members want to put up for discussion? No? Business. Old business. We do have a number of old business items. Short-term rentals. At the last meeting, we talked about perhaps posting on the website the requirements if anyone is interested in renting their house or other property they have under a short-term requirement, that we would post that so it would be right there, front and center, on the website.
Yeah, the zoning official is working with the girls that manage the website. They have a zoning page. They're going to have that information all on there, showing what the rules and regulations are. It's different depending on the various communities, so they're going to try and have good contact depending on what community you live in.
So we would actually go into the issue of within the different communities, and I'm presuming we're talking about the condo
In the hills-
neighborhoods?
In the hills might be listed, but then if you're talking about other places in town, it'll be set up that way, so depending on what neighborhood or what area in town that you're talking about, it'll tell you what the rules are.
So this will be the zoning, the fire inspections, and any other, if carbon monoxide inspections, any other inspections that would be associated with that.
There were also a couple of recent
saw that.
notifications sent out there
Right.
in your monthly reports. You'll see from the zoning official that were just sent out recently. One in the hills and one not in the hills.
Once again, complaint driven, or was this driven by?
Came from the public.
Okay, all right, great.
And it's mostly, people are watching that Airbnb website and they see something and they say something.
And if they say something, then that's how the enforcement works, right? Okay. Engine braking, I don't think that there's any
have
developments.
something.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, Chief.
All right, Chief. I've been waiting.
Not to be April Fool's, ish, but, so on April 1st, with the distracted driving crackdown, the message board has not moved, but we spun the message. So I'm wondering if, we've had anybody contact anyone to find out if engine braking is still a problem. So say April 1st, it's, said you drive, you text, you pay. And, I don't know if that sign's doing anything. And, it's going to be subject to removal very shortly for different locations.
Well, we have folks who live within close proximity of that sign.
While it was flashing no engine braking, we were getting good feedback and thanks from the residents. I haven't heard anything about a lack of engine braking per se, but at least the effort was there. I haven't heard any complaints about the change of the sign, and I know that the machine is dedicated for another purpose coming up. So let's see how it goes in terms of the actual noise, and you hope that the repetitive traffic that's going through there on a commercial basis and the truckers are seeing that and they're noting it. So hopefully that carries beyond taking the sign down. But no, I haven't heard anything negative about the switching of the content of the sign.
No, we do have someone who lives awful close proximity to that sign. Ms. Fernandez, have you noticed anything since the chief changed the message out there?
I haven't really paid attention, but I know that a lot of people appreciate the message, at least, because it's very loud and disruptive. So.
Will the message continue to be on distracted driving, or will you at some point transition it to another message?
Through the 21st, I believe, is when the big crackdown is finished, and then we'll switch it back. But, it's going to go to different locations. I don't know if we, think about getting steel signs and getting approval to put them up on 206 as you're, coming down, just to make notice, because...
We had raised that with DOT, and they were not in favor of it. DOT actually favors engine braking because they say it's good for the trucks, blah, 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 but we don't favor it here. So
They tend to favor it as an emergency to have it available.
The Jake braking or engine braking, as you call it, to them it was a safer way to slow the trucks down as opposed to using brakes. So we're sort of we're fighting an uphill fight with DOT to get signage out there. So I like the idea of the temporary machine there.
Right. And since you did mention the distracted driving exercise, how's the program working out for you?
I currently don't have the numbers. Obviously, the department, we deployed 2 structured details, and the feedback was good. Obviously, if you were pulled over, it's probably not so good. But I'll have the numbers, after the period is over.
Well, it's interesting just watching some of the social media. These what are the Bedminster Police doing? They're all over there. What's going on? And then
What is that,
this,
Pluckman, middle of
yeah,
Pluckman, that's it?
Yeah. But this is really all about safety and
Absolutely.
just
They're doing their
keep
job.
it, Chief. Keep it going. Pluckman Park. So we do have some developments with Pluckman Park. Judy, can you give us just a brief
The
update?
latest report we have is the local property manager is doing actually tomorrow to meet with our code enforcement department to review the permits, update us on where they are. I know our code enforcement code official had requested to meet with the clerk to review some of the issues with the sewer line. There were some other permits that, they can't go on with the project till the permits are obtained, and they weren't coming in to pick up the permits. So everything, I understand now that the property manager was out of the country for a short period. So she's back. She'll be in the office here tomorrow to meet with code enforcement and zoning.
So we have an update on the sidewalk repairs?
According to code enforcement, they actually had put in a number of they actually dug out pieces of the sidewalk. They replaced some of it. It isn't all done yet. He has to be down and do a final inspection, but it was underway. So I don't know what the final status is. Hopefully I'll get that tomorrow.
And with the construction officials, so there's standing fines that have been assessed. So before,
So when they come in to
so
pay-
before the
pay
permits can be
They
issued,
have to pay the fines, yeah.
there was just an exchange of emails back and forth. Take it nothing further from the permittee?
They asked if the fines would be waived, and the answer was no.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then, as we mentioned before, we'd offered up these chambers for the residents if they needed to convene and discuss issues about landlord-tenant issues with a legal aid attorney, that we would make this room available. As of now, we don't know if that offer's been taken up, but we actually, between Judy, Doug, and I, will continue to reach out to the residents who agreed to be the, I guess, the coordinators on that effort from the tenant side. So we'll continue with that, and also finding out from the tenants what their feelings are about the improvements that the landlord is and should have been making all these past couple of years. So it's good to see that there's been response to these fines and penalties, and that there's efforts being made by the landlord. Doug, as you indicated, that it was disgraceful that it took them this long to do it. But now we've certainly got them focused, and we're not going to lose that, and we will continue to keep this on old business until that property is in shape. JCP&L outages. Renee, I know you and Colin had some discussions with the folks from Forbes and Wood Duck Pond.
We did, and then last Friday, they sent new information over to Tom Haynes, updating him on outages and sending him a map, actually, locating all the equipment in their HVMNA area. Tom responded back to them fairly quickly that he wasn't able to go out on the road with Henry that week because Henry was out. They're looking to do it this week. So Colin and I should be able to reach out next week at some point and see if they've gotten what they've done and if they have a plan or some thoughts of what they're going to do next.
So when we had met with them back in March, we thought that April might be too soon to bring them back. But do you think that May is appropriate now? I mean, they would.
I guess
so
depends on
what
they find out, like if they find what the issues actually are. If they're not too difficult to fix, then I don't see why not. But I think we should reach out to Tom one more time and see where they are.
Right, so,
and then perhaps maybe the second meeting in May.
Right. So why don't you let Tom know of what our May schedule is?
Okay. Yep.
And see if he can fit us in for one of those days.
Because the sooner the better.
They certainly now have the information
Yep.
from the residents. That was, I just got to fit to them. That was amazing.
A list.
10-year list.
Uh-huh.
So congratulations, Jackie Weber and Jeff Leonard, for compiling that. That was great information.
And I reached out to Jeff this morning and asked him, did they have any outage last night with that big storm? And he said no.
Right.
So it's crazy.
Right. Sometimes the windstorm takes something down, and folks are out, and we have a storm like we had last night where it was pretty brutal and no outages. So go figure. It for old business. So, second bite of the apple. This is the second time that the microphone is open for public comment. You don't have to make public comment, but it's there if you wish.
Just a question. The public comment on the budget date is May 2nd?
May 6th.
May 6th.
Thank you.
So we'll post everything on the website probably tomorrow, along with the information that I was reading. If there's any questions, you can certainly email me or come to the public hearing and bring your questions and comments then.
Okay, no more public comments. We will move on to Township Committee comments. And we'll start with Mr. Stevenson.
No comments, Mayor.
Ms. Anderson.
Other than to echo your comment, thanking the staff for all their hard work on the budget and the chief, and excited to introduce it. Let's see what happens on May 6th.
Ms. Mareski.
And thank you to the public for coming and joining us for the budget. That's it.
And I do want to echo Doug's thoughts earlier about the fire company dinner. So this is, I believe, the second year in a row that 29 fire, 29 rescue, and C3 fire have joined together. That room was full, Folks were enjoying themselves. It was great to see the fire companies and the squad all together. And the videos that they ran of what they've been doing all year was dramatic. And frankly, you know, it would actually be nice to see if they could actually post that either on their websites or on our website, or do a link to it so that folks know this is what your volunteers are taking care of. It's not just, you know, some cat in a tree, it's fires, it's car accidents.
Some of those car accidents.
And a lot of training.
A lot of training, and you see training put to use. It puts a great effect, and there's a reason that they have that training.
Muscle memory. The more you do it, the more...
Right, and some of those car accidents are not, you know, sometimes people walk away from some of those accidents, and sometimes they don't, and it's our responders who are the ones there who show up to take care of things, and let's not forget them. We do have an executive session. We will not be taking any action following executive session. You're more than welcome to stay here. We will be returning and adjourning the meeting when we come back. Can I have a motion to move to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will be back, hopefully, shortly.
Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go.
You are a professional. You could be the singer of the Farmers Home. You and your sister?
Yeah, we used to sing together. My mom used to talk to
Like,
that. You know, like when you're a parent, like when your kids are next to each other and they hang
Yes.
out.
Judy, we on?
Yes, we are.
We are. Okay, it is 9 to 5, and we are back from executive session. We are not taking any action following the executive session, so we are done. So can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second?
Second, and here we go. Thank you, Lizette, for showing up tonight.
Thank
For
you.
filling in for Tom Malario. Thank you, and with that, we're adjourned.
Peace. Peace.
Cauliflower.
9 o'clock.
Oh no, did you shut that off already? Stop. Can you take